get yourself fucked up or even killed. So hopefully people like myself and others can deter you from wanting to go into that place. Find some better role models. We talked about 2U's role models in the next 2 episodes. Got some heat from one of them. Got some heat from the other one. I don't really give a fuck. To me personally, it's just like, I'm giving you this information because you idolize these idiots, man. And these people, they get themselves caught up in some legal trouble, and you think that it's going to go the same way for you if you just kind of like imitate what their tactics, like giving up people in their organization or whoever they're working with, letting other people, getting off on other people in order to get lesser time, but that's not going to come your way. And the whole moral of that is find some healthier role models. Find some other people that are doing some real positive shit and imitate them. And take a better control of your life. Learn how to sharpen up your emotional intelligence and your cognitions. Because a lot of you just ain't prepared for what could possibly be coming in this world. We could be heading some real dark times on the horizon. And how are you going to be prepared for it? You can't even keep your fucking emotions in check. So those are the morals of why I talked about that. Then we talked about Jeffrey Epstein, that piece of shit. You know, somebody should just really go out there and hurt him really bad when he gets out on bail. Because he will get bail. Because he's got it like that. You know, I mean, you know the story. We ain't going to revisit that shit. Like I said, we're going to shift gears into something that's a little more dear to my heart. And basically, we're going to start off with enlightening a lot of you about what it means to be a victim or a character under the residual clause of the 13th Amendment. Now, for those of you that don't know what the 13th Amendment says, I'll give it to you in my words. It's basically slavery is outlawed in this country, except where a conviction of a crime has occurred, where you've been duly convicted in a court of law, you're basically considered a slave. Now, there's some of you out there that watch me and listen to me and you say, well, I'm not a slave. Okay. I mean, you could say that all you want, but in the definition of the law and the way the law looks at you, you are very much that. I know it's a hard pill to swallow. Believe me, bro, I'm there with you. But this is what it is. You could say you're not a slave all day long, but the law says otherwise. I could sit in the mirror and tell myself I'm a Martian for the next 3 months. That don't mean I'm a Martian. Still a human being. It's been done this way for a reason. There was a more darker, insidious purpose for why this clause was put into the Constitution. Because you got to remember, this happened directly after the American Civil War. And what was the Civil War? What was the primary purpose of the Civil War? It was a result to ending slavery. That's what it was about. One of the main points of the Civil War. Once the country came back together, a lot of those former slave owners and former members of the Confederate government were back in the United States government. So they helped shape these laws. And a lot of these people were instrumental in tweaking this new 13th Amendment outlawing slavery. But they needed a really strong, cheap workforce in order to rebuild the southern states because they were just thrashed, man. Shit was burnt to the ground, like Richmond, Atlanta, places like that, gone. Burnt straight to the ground, toast. Somebody had to rebuild that shit, and they had to do it cheap. What better way than to find a loophole in the Emancipation Proclamation and the basically outlawing of slavery by making a whole new kind of slave force, a criminal slave force. You've been convicted in a court. The minute the judge says, will the defendant please rise, the minute you come into contract with that court, you've waived your rights, your constitutional rights at that moment. So they could put you to work. They could strap a chain to your ankle and they make you rebuild that city. And that's exactly how they rebuilt the South so fast. A lot of people are like, wow, what a quick recovery. Well, they didn't realize that it was slave labor of former slaves that they, since they had their rights back, were now pushed back into the slave system through apprenticeships and various other things in order to get them to work. It was genius, if you think about it, in a dark way, in an insidious way, but it worked. It did the trick. So this was why it was put into place to begin with. But once the South was rebuilt, then what did they do with the clause? Well, fuck, man, there's a whole lot you could do with the clause. You could continue to develop penitentiaries and prison farms and plantations, and you can make them work there for the state, the county. You can even go so far as to restrict them of all of their other constitutional rights indefinitely once they're out of prison. This didn't start becoming a thing until like the 1900s. Now, mind you, back in the 1800s, when you were released from San Quentin, you were given $20 a mule and a 6-shooter. That's what they gave you. They didn't take your gun rights away at that time because at the moment, it was only hard labor that was the general idea for the clause itself. Once you were out, it was different. But they figured out a way. Because what it says in there, and I'll pull it up for you right here. What it says in there, oh, give me a minute here. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted. Now it kind of lingers after that. You notice how it doesn't say while incarcerated? Because that was never the intention. The intention was to keep you locked in to this clause forever. They weren't really concerned with restricting your gun ownership rights, your voting rights, because most people that were formerly slaves before the Emancipation Proclamation didn't have the right to vote anyways. Neither did women. Women didn't even have the right to vote all the way up until the 1900s. Because it says nothing in the Constitution about women. That's how they used it. People don't understand the language and the intentional vagueness that they've put in the law itself. People don't get it. And a lot of you don't get it either. Because then I get some of you that have actually done time and others that claim to be criminal justice reform activists or supporters are okay with never allowing somebody to bear arms again, even after they've demonstrated that they've done their time, they paid all their fines, they've completed parole or probation, they've lived a law-abiding life, they're contributing to society. Why are they not given the right to defend their home if an intruder comes in? The same thing is why can't they run for federal public office? Why can't they become doctors? Why can't they become lawyers? Federally bonded. Why do they have to be subject to a background check in order to get employment or to live in certain places? Now, I understand certain background checks for certain things. There's many different background checks, what a lot of you people don't know. There's many different background checks. There's FBI background check, NCICs. There's Department of Defense, Secret Service. There's all these different kinds of background checks for various different reasons. And some people that don't even have a criminal conviction in any way, shape, or form may not clear certain background checks for various different reasons. It could be 1,000 different things. You could have bad credit, so they can't trust you to manage money in a certain way if you can't manage your own finances. Things like that. I mean, things that are actually still present. If you have bad credit, you obviously still can't manage your finances. Violent sexual predators towards children, the elderly, women, even men. That's a psychotic disorder. That's not a criminal disorder. That's a psychotic disorder. That's something that you fix with years and decades of psychiatric treatment in a mental facility. So please don't throw the sex offenders at me. That one doesn't hold any water, any weight for me, doesn't sway me in any way, shape, or form. Well, I don't want all these pedophiles having guns and all that. Well, you know what? I don't even think pedophiles should ever be allowed out of a mental hospital. If you're sexually attracted to a child, there's something fucking psychologically wrong with you. You can't even put them in the same category as somebody that's selling dope to escape their environment, or somebody that has antisocial behavior or self-destructive behavior because of a lot of forced trauma upon them when they were in their childhood. Somebody that joins a gang and shot a rival gang member. You can't put that person in the same category with a serial killer, because that kid didn't wake up today and say, you know what, I hope that I get to kill somebody today. No matter how much they talk. It takes a lot. It takes a special kind of person to stick a gun in somebody's head and shoot them, wanting to do that the whole time. People talk a good, like, I'm going to smoke this dude, I'm going to smoke that. But it takes a special person to want to kill somebody. And you don't necessarily have to be psychotic to be that. I mean, a soldier in combat kills people all the time. Does that mean that they're psychotic? It's circumstantial in those cases. But a person that indiscriminately plans out their whole life to go out there and kidnap people and chop them up and kill them and torture them and do all these things, those kind of people are sick and they need to be in a mental facility. But when somebody is selling dope to escape their environment, somebody's got involved in the gangs, somebody is self-medicating through narcotics use or whatnot, somebody steals, a lot of times behind drugs or behind criminal behavior or peer pressure or environmental circumstances, those kind of people are not even in the same category. So why would you be dead set against them having a complete restoration of constitutional rights once they've proven that they're a productive member of society? And that's the question. How can we develop an effective criminal justice system to where it works? And I have a manifesto that I'm working on for how that can happen. Like, call it a 50-point plan to cut the prison population down by 50%, by 60% or 70% even. Because what the Stand for Something Life plan entails is a criminal justice reform package that abolishes the prison system as we know it and leads towards an incentivized rehabilitation that gives the person who is participating in the program a real chance at living a successful and crime-free life. Not this, well, you did your time, you got to do your time, and when you get out, go work at Dunkin' Donuts, you fucking scumbag. Just be thankful that you're not still in prison. Well, some of these people would rather be in prison under those circumstances. You got to shift your paradigm in all these things, man. It ain't fucking black and white. You're dealing with human emotion here. And you're dealing with human survival skills. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And individual greed and selfishness. I'm going to give you two scenarios, right, for the same person. You have this guy who's been in prison for several years. You offer him the incentivized rehabilitation road towards complete recovery. He goes through these programs. He's developing his emotional intelligence. He's getting his cognitive thinking on track. He's learning how to cope with high-risk situations. He's learning interpersonal skills, anger management. how to set goals as the beginning step of his road towards success. Then he's put into another phase where all these situations and scenarios are being presented to him. And he has to problem solve his way out of them. And he has to develop a plan to deal with this and to cover his bases on that and to get this for that and to do this here. Then he goes into an employment development, learns solid work ethic. Then he's placed into a job in the community while still in a reentry center. He's basically taught how to manage his finances, how to pay down his debts, how to establish a line of credit, how to deal with his taxes, how to get medical insurance, how to budget, how to do all these things that I'm saying, how to be a better father to his kids, how to provide for his family, how to overcome all the stresses by staying involved with his personal support mentor. Then after a certain period of time, he's back in front of the judge. And the judge is asking, okay, but what did you do? Okay, you did all this, did all this. You didn't have no dirty UAs. You didn't get in trouble. You kept and maintained a job. You've done everything we've asked. We're going to go ahead and seal your record at the court level. That means employers or landlords of property will not be able to perform a background check and discriminate against you based upon your conviction. In the beginning, this man was given the choice. Do you want to participate in this program? Your rights will be restored if you do all these things. If you don't, you can go do your time. You can go through the parole system and probation system. You could just be another schmuck when you get out. What step do you think they're going to take? And all that, you know, doing wheeling and dealing and scheming and cutting corners and faking it till you make it, that shit will come out in the wash. Because there ain't going to be no quickly pushing people through in this program. It's going to be hard-nosed by the book. Because we're dealing with the public safety factor. We don't want some fucking scumbag to fuck it up for everyone else. Fake his way till he makes it through the program and then go out and kill somebody. Nah. You're going to have to seriously earn this shit. You're going to be monitored. You're going to be watched. Maybe make them wear a fucking camera that's constantly recording around the clock so that you could see everything that they're doing. These are what it takes to get people to get back on track. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than keeping them incarcerated. You give them this scenario. As opposed to, let's say you don't give them that. Let's say you're one of them tough on crime conservative types. Fuck him. He broke the law. He's a scumbag, mass murdering, child molesting, rapist, cannibal, and all that other stuff. Because you lump us all together because that's how ignorant most of you are. You basically tell them, do your time, and when you get out, maybe you can go back to school and learn a trade or do something with your life. But it doesn't work that way. He may be able to go out there and get in a trade and go to school and do all that, but you got that background check to overcome. Plus, he may never be able to secure a residence outside of a high crime neighborhood. So now he's working at Dunkin' Donuts because you're tough on crime attitude. You're self-designated judge, jury, and executioner when it ain't nothing to do with your motherfucking ass to begin with. You've designated yourself as judge, jury, and executioner and said, yeah, go work at Dunkin' Donuts, you piece of shit. Make sure you get my fucking Twister and my fucking Eclair right. While he's living in a weekly rental motel around all kinds of people that are up to no good, how long do you think it's going to be before he's back in the mix? You've created a desperate situation for a desperate man who's going to resort to drastic measures to meet the drastic times. As opposed to this other step that he took. Now he's got a good job. He's living in a pretty good neighborhood. He's meeting good people that don't break the law. He's got new friends. He may even get a wife who's got a career goal oriented mindset, who's on the right path, who's doing things. He ain't thinking about none of this other shit. He's thinking about all this now. He's grateful that he's got that. But this other motherfucker doesn't. He's mad and he's pissed off. I did my time. Why am I still being punished? By all these judge, jury, and executioner motherfuckers that are running around in society. Incompassionate, inconsiderate, fucking sadistical, sorry-ass human beings you are. And most of you deserve it when you become the victim of a crime in a situation like that. I'm going to go on record and say that. Because you contributed it to this happening by not looking for realistic solutions. That's not a realistic solution. That's a statistical, torturing punishment that you want to continue forever. So now this dude over here, he's given with an opportunity. Hey man, drive all this dope across town. I'll give you 5 G's. He wants out of that weekly rental motel. He wants out of that Dunkin' Donuts. He's going to jump on that shit. Believe me, I know. I've been in that situation. He's going to drive that dope across town. He's going to get lit up by the cops. He's going to go on a high-speed chase, and he's going to run over a couple of kids that are crossing the crosswalk and kill them. Let me ask you something. What price tag do you put on those children's lives? Does it cost less than giving them plan A? Option A? There's no price tag that you could put on somebody else's children or your own. I'm talking to you straight here. Because this is a reality of it. Your thinking is all bass-ackwards, man. We're not just talking about gun rights. We're talking about the entire constitutional rights that were restricted, that were taken away from us. The only right that you really have as a convicted felon is the right to remain silent. Unless, of course, they beat it out of you, and they could surely do that. You really don't have the right to remain silent either, but it's the one that you can effectively utilize more so than any other constitutional right that you think you have that you really don't. You have no 8th Amendment rights. You have no 4th Amendment rights, even if you're off parole or probation. Try driving around at 2 o'clock in the morning in a high crime area and see what happens. You get pulled over by the cops, they run your name, find out you got a criminal record. Well, guess what? They're searching your vehicle one way or the other. You got a busted taillight, even though you don't. You look high as a kite, even though you're not. You look suspicious, even though you're not. You're getting out of the car and they're going to tear your car up. You have no 4th Amendment rights. You ever wondered why they could do that? It's because of that clause, that residual clause. They may not even know why they have the right to do that, but they know they do. There's a lot of insidious, heinous, dark shit that surrounds this whole thing. And the recidivism is just going to keep on moving. It's not going to change. I break ranks with a lot of people in criminal justice reform because they don't really have any solutions that I feel are going to work. I've been in the prison system for over 20 years. I think I know what works and what don't work. 20 years ago, man, if you were going to tell me that we're going to cut your sentence down to only 25% you're going to do and you're going to be out, man, I would be thrilled that I get to go out there and get my hustle on that much sooner. That was my mindset back then. If you didn't prepare me for the streets, you just let me out, I'm back into the same business I'm in. We're talking about totally reinventing the system, abolishing it as it stands, and creating an incentivized rehabilitation institution that leads toward the complete restoration of all constitutional rights. This also would include rewriting the 13th Amendment of the Constitution to remove the residual clause. is the only way it's going to work. Now that that clause is gone, all bets are off. You have to give all rights back. When you paid your debt, because that's what prison is, it's a debt you're paying, your rights are restored. Let me compare it to one other thing real quick before I leave. When we are under attack by a foreign country, let's just say Japan in Pearl Harbor. They bombed the shit out of Pearl Harbor, sunk all them ships, killed all them people, right? We declare war on Japan. We declare war on Germany. We go to war with these two countries. We decimate them in all their cities. When the war is over and the peace treaty is signed, what do we do next? We give them their guns back, and then we spend billions of dollars to rebuild their cities. Why? Why would a lot of you tough on crime conservative types think that that's okay, but it's not okay to rebuild your own community and your own cities? You're going to go ahead and give them, how do you know they're not going to use the guns to attack us again? But you armed them again right after World War II. They were rearmed. Both sides. What makes them so trusting and a guy that stole a car not? Why can't you just as easily say, well, fuck them, let them eat the dirt? They knew what they were getting into when they dropped those bombs. Now they need to suffer. But you don't see it that way for some reason. And you can't seem to correlate what I'm saying with your own fellow neighbors and people in your community and in your cities. You think it's okay to continue to label us as such and continue to ostracize, discriminate against us, disparage us, keep us in disadvantage and all the other disses that I can think of. But anytime we go to war with another country, it's okay to drop a few $1 trillion to rebuild all their shit and give them all their guns back and give them money and give them a fresh start. But we can't get a fresh start out of you? You want to fix the system? You have to ask yourself, what's the price of a human life? What's the price of a child or the price of a victim? What's the price of their life to you? Because if you damn sure ain't going to create option number one, you're going to get stuck on option number two, you're going to continue the recidivism trap going. And now this ain't a threat. This ain't an ultimatum. I'm not holding this hostage over your head. I'm giving you the fucking reality of it. You create desperate situations for people, they're going to resort to drastic measures. It's just the way humans are. You back an animal up into a corner, they're going to fucking bite. It's fight or flight. What are you going to fight for? Ask yourself, what's the price of human life? And I'm out.